Welcome to EconoChat, Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. I'm your hostess, Elsa B. Timignani, and it is a lovely day today, I should say. And today we're also going to talk about something that some of our listeners might still not understand and still don't agree with, what the government is using in order to make sure that everything in Namibia economically is well counted for.
Yes,
measured. And that is, of course, the gross domestic product, GDP, as we know it. But also something that I would like Mr. Daniel Steinman to explain to us later on in the show, and that is, of course, the Human Development Index, just to compare the two. But for now, a warm welcome to you, Mr. Daniel Steinman.
Thank you, Elsa B. That what you've just said was probably the understatement of the year. Some people not understand. Everybody talks about GDP. Very, very, very few people understand GDP, And it's very simple. It's something that they teach you in your first year at university. And if you go search in Google and you ask Google, Doctor, what is GDP? You get this standard answer. It is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. Net exports is exports less imports. So that is the standard formula that you get. And I think most people just swallow it without thinking twice. Now, you've referred to the HDI, the Human Development Index, and I think I'd be wasting our listeners' time if I tried to present a lecture in economics on what exactly is GDP. In this discipline, everybody knows what is GDP. The problem is not determining what is GDP. The problem is to identify the shortcomings in the GDP model.
Definitely.
That framework has been designed more than 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And it's been, in the beginning it worked well because when we were talking about national economies, it was easy to draw the borders. There's the British economy, there's the American economy, there's a very nascent Chinese economy, there are the colonial economies, but there was no confusion of identity. Now, as you very well know, since the 1970s, 80s, with trade becoming the most important economic mover worldwide, trade basically determining the fortune of various nations, the borders have become blurred. And it's very difficult to say that diamond that was mined in Oranjemund then sold to the diamond trading company in Botswana, then sold back to Namibia, to the Indian polishing house here, then taken to Calcutta, where it was refined, and from where it went to Amsterdam. Whose diamond is it?
Exactly. That's the question.
This is the whole problem with GDP, is that it worked well when economies were isolated, when it was easy to identify them and to measure the input according to national boundaries. The last 50 years, those boundaries have disappeared. Make no mistake, Mr. Trump is very hard trying to put them back, but he will not succeed. Trade is the way that the modern economy works. And there's no nation on this earth that can make everything. We tried 30 years ago. We call it import substitution. And then we realized it's far cheaper to import chickens than to grow them ourselves. And so this is all part of the dynamic of trade. And this is also part of the reason why in formal economics, in the discipline, it's been realized for many years that GDP counts many things twice, and I'm going to come back to that, or GDP omits many things. And this is where you started getting the movement from about 1994, 95, also promoted by the United Nations, about the concept of the Human Development Index, where basically the people who determine economic policy. Now, when I say that, remember, who determines economic policy? The government.
Yeah.
So the lawmakers in every country, where they started realizing that we don't get the answers that we're looking for by formally, strictly just using the GDP model. This is where you started finding economists coming up with alternative ways of measuring progress.
Okay.
Now let that sink in just for a second, because this is what it's all about. That's why it's called the HDI, Human Development Index. If there isn't progress, if our future isn't better now than what it was 30 years ago, what's the sense of it all?
Yeah.
Then economics is just an academic discipline. A dead one.
A dead one.
A dead one,
waste.
yeah. You see, so Elsaby, let's quickly go around the corner for a break, and then we come back and we look at the formal components of GDP, and I'll point out to you why they don't work.
Okay, let's do that.